Riverview Lane was the kind of street people dreamed about when they thought of a peaceful life. Neatly trimmed lawns, white fences, and houses that all looked different but somehow belonged together. In the evenings, the air smelled of grilled food and fresh-cut grass. Kids played outside until sunset, and no one worried about locking their doors. At the center of this perfect little world was Ethan Cole. If Riverview Lane had a mayor, it would have been him. Ethan was in his mid-30s, tall, well-spoken, and always dressed neatly. He had moved into the neighborhood 3 years ago, and within months, everyone knew his name. He helped Mrs. Dalton carry groceries every Sunday. He fixed Mr. Harris's broken fence without charging a cent. When someone's car broke down, Ethan was the first person they called. People trusted him without hesitation. "He's one of the good ones," they often said. So when Maya Reynolds moved into the house next door with her 16-year-old son Noah, Ethan naturally became their welcome committee. Maya had recently gone through a messy divorce. She wanted a fresh start, a quiet place to rebuild her life. Riverview Lane felt perfect, safe, normal. On her first day, while she struggled to pull a heavy sofa from the moving truck, Ethan appeared as if on cue. "Need a hand?" he asked with a warm smile. Within an hour, the furniture was inside, the boxes were stacked, and Ethan had even brought over lemonade. "You're really lucky to have him as a neighbor," Mrs. Dalton told Maya later. "He's practically family to all of us." And at first, it felt true. Ethan checked in on Maya almost daily. He gave Noah advice about school. He fixed Maya's leaking sink, changed a flat tire, even brought over dinner when she worked late. Slowly, subtly, he became part of their routine. Too much a part. Ethan noticed everything. He noticed what time Maya left for work. He noticed when Noah came home from school. He noticed which lights stayed on at night. He noticed when the house was quiet. Maya found it comforting. After years of feeling alone, it felt nice to have someone so dependable nearby. Sometimes, though, she felt a strange unease she couldn't explain. One evening, she mentioned it casually to her friend on the phone. "Ethan's great, honestly, but it's weird. Sometimes I feel like he knows my schedule better than I do." Her friend laughed. "That's what happens when someone's too nice." Maya laughed too. She didn't know that at that exact moment, Ethan was sitting in his living room, lights off, watching her house through binoculars. From across the street, he could see the soft glow of her bedroom lamp. He could see her silhouette moving behind the curtains. He lowered the binoculars slowly and smiled. In Ethan's mind, everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. He told himself he was just looking out for her, protecting her, making sure she was safe. That's what good neighbors did. But Ethan wasn't just watching from outside. He knew things he shouldn't have known. He knew Maya's email password. He knew her PIN. He knew what days Noah had football practice. He had learned these things quietly, carefully over time. Once, when Maya had forgotten her phone at home, Ethan had offered to keep it safe until she returned. Another time, he helped her fix her Wi-Fi, setting up access for himself without her realizing. Maya thought she was lucky. Ethan thought she was his. In his house, everything looked normal on the surface. Clean kitchen, organized shelves, framed photos on the wall. A man with nothing to hide. But inside his bedroom closet, behind a row of old winter coats, there was a locked metal box. Inside were dozens of printed photographs. Maya sitting on her porch, Maya grocery shopping, Maya talking on the phone, Maya sleeping, taken from outside her window. Some of the photos were zoomed in so closely that you could see the freckles on her face. Ethan opened the box almost every night. He would sit on his bed, flipping through the photos slowly, like memories from a relationship that didn't exist. "She just doesn't realize it yet," he whispered to himself. "We're meant to be." One night, around midnight, Noah woke up thirsty and walked toward the kitchen. As he passed the hallway, he froze. For a split second, he thought he saw a shadow near the front door, someone standing there, watching. By the time he blinked, it was gone. The next morning, he told Maya about it. "It was probably just your imagination," she brushed it off. "You've been playing too many horror games." Noah wasn't convinced. A few days later, Maya noticed something strange. Her front door was unlocked when she was sure she had locked it before leaving for work. Another time, a cupboard in the kitchen was open. Another time, her bedroom window was slightly raised. Small things, easy to ignore. Ethan noticed her discomfort. "You seem stressed lately," he said one afternoon, handing her a cup of coffee over the fence. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just tired, I guess," Maya replied, forcing a smile. Ethan watched her closely. He could sense her pulling back just a little, talking less, smiling less, being less available. It made something dark twist inside his chest. That night, for the first time, Ethan crossed a line he had promised himself he wouldn't cross. He waited until Maya's lights went out, waited until Noah's room went dark. Then he walked across the street. He had a key. He had copied it weeks ago when Maya casually handed it to him, asking him to feed her cat while she was away for the weekend. The door opened silently. Ethan stepped inside the house that smelled faintly of vanilla and detergent. He stood in the hallway, heart pounding, listening to their breathing from the bedrooms. This was different from watching. This was real. He walked slowly toward Maya's room, stopped, listened, then turned and left, locking the door behind him exactly the way it was before. No one knew. No one suspected. Across the street, back in his room, Ethan wrote in a small notebook he kept hidden in his drawer, "She trusts me completely. Soon she won't need anyone else." Outside, Riverview Lane slept peacefully. Inside one house, a woman dreamed of a safe new life. And inside the house next door, a man was planning how to make her part of his forever. The rain started just after sunset. Not a gentle drizzle, but a heavy, relentless downpour that blurred the streetlights and turned Riverview Lane into a shining ribbon of wet asphalt. Most of the houses went dark early. Curtains were drawn, doors locked, and the peaceful neighborhood slipped into its usual quiet. Maya Reynolds should have been home by 8:30 p.m. By 9:15, Noah was already checking his phone every few minutes. By 10, he was pacing the living room. His mother never stayed out this late without calling, not after everything they'd been through, not after promising him that this new place was about being safe and starting fresh. At 10:17 p.m., Noah finally called her. Straight to voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail. A knot formed in his stomach. Outside, the rain intensified, hammering against the windows. The street looked empty, silent, and unreal, except for one house. Across the road, Ethan's porch light was still on. Noah hesitated, then grabbed his hoodie and stepped outside. The rain soaked him instantly as he ran across the street and knocked on Ethan's door. It opened almost immediately. "Hey, Noah," Ethan said, his face calm, almost relieved. "Everything okay?" "My mom's not home. She's not answering her phone." He frowned as if genuinely concerned. "That's strange. She didn't mention working late." He invited Noah inside, handed him a towel, and offered hot chocolate. He even called Maya himself, putting the phone on speaker. Voicemail. "Don't worry," Ethan said softly. "She's probably stuck somewhere because of the rain. We'll hear from her soon." But something about the way he said it, too calm, too certain, made Noah uneasy. By midnight, the police were called. 2 officers arrived, soaked and tired. They checked the house, took notes, and asked the usual questions. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no missing belongings. Maya's car was parked neatly in the driveway, keys still inside her purse on the kitchen counter. It was as if she had come home and then disappeared into thin air. Ethan stood close, offering coffee, answering questions, helping however he could. "I live right across the street," he told the officers. "I didn't hear anything unusual," which was true because nothing unusual had happened, not from the outside. The search began the next morning. Posters were printed, volunteers walked through parks, alleys, and nearby woods. The neighborhood came together united by concern and fear. Ethan led the search group. He shouted Maya's name louder than anyone. He hugged Noah when he cried. He told everyone, "We won't stop until we find her." Behind his eyes, something else was happening. In Ethan's garage, hidden under a tarp, was Maya's phone, her bag, her jacket still damp from rain. He replayed the night in his head again and again. Maya had arrived home around 8:40 p.m. He had been waiting, watching. She looked exhausted, distracted. She barely noticed when he stepped out from the shadows of her porch. "Ethan," she had said, surprised, "what are you doing here?" "We need to talk," he replied. She tried to laugh it off, tried to step past him. That's when he grabbed her arm, not hard at first, just enough to make her stop. Everything after that happened very fast. The fear in her eyes, the way she tried to scream, the rain masking the sound. By the time she realized what was happening, it was already too late. Back in the present, 3 days passed, still no sign of Maya. The police started asking harder questions. A neighbor mentioned hearing raised voices that night. A taxi driver remembered dropping Maya near her house. A security camera from a nearby gas station showed Ethan's car driving at 3:17 a.m., its trunk visibly dirty with mud. When confronted, Ethan didn't panic. "I went out for supplies," he said calmly. "The storm caused a leak in my basement." He even laughed lightly. "Guess I should have cleaned the car better." The officers exchanged glances. They had nothing solid. Until Noah remembered something. He was sitting in his room, staring at the ceiling, replaying the night over and over in his mind, and suddenly one detail stood out, a memory he had ignored. A shadow in the hallway. Not imagination, a person. Noah told the police everything. I think Ethan was inside our house that night." The room went silent. A search warrant was requested immediately. Police dogs were brought to Riverview Lane. They sniffed Maya's clothes. They walked through the house, out the front door, across the street, straight to Ethan's garage. The dogs began barking wildly. Ethan stood there smiling. "Guess they like me," he joked. But this time, no one laughed. The officer stepped forward. "Mr. Cole, we're going to need to take a look inside your garage." Ethan's smile didn't fade. "Of course," he said. "I've got nothing to hide." He opened the garage door. Inside, everything looked normal. Too normal. Clean floor, no smell, no blood, no obvious signs of anything. The dogs kept barking. One of the officers noticed something small near the drain, a thin gold chain, Maya's necklace, half buried in the corner like someone had tried to wash it away. Ethan's smile finally twitched, just for a second, but it was enough. And in that moment, the perfect neighbor's mask began to crack. The atmosphere on Riverview Lane changed overnight. Police cars lined the street, yellow tape wrapped around Ethan Cole's house like a warning sign no one had ever imagined needing. Neighbors stood on their porches, whispering to each other, watching as the man they once trusted was escorted out in handcuffs. Ethan didn't resist. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He simply looked around at the crowd and said calmly, "This is all a misunderstanding." Noah stood behind one of the officers, shaking. He felt sick watching Ethan, the man who used to make him hot chocolate, being pushed into the back of a police car. Part of him still hoped it was a mistake. At the station, Ethan sat comfortably in the interrogation room, hands folded, posture relaxed. He asked for water. He asked for a lawyer. He smiled politely at the detective, Detective Sarah Monroe, who sat across from him. "You're very calm for someone whose neighbor is missing," she said. "I believe in the truth," Ethan replied. "It always comes out." Sarah studied him carefully. In her 15 years as a detective, she had learned one thing: the calm ones were often the worst. While Ethan waited, another team searched his house more thoroughly. What they found erased any remaining doubt. Behind a tall bookshelf in the basement was a loose panel. When it was moved, it revealed a narrow staircase leading down into a hidden room. The room was small, windowless, soundproofed, and filled with evidence. Maya's phone, her purse, her shoes, strands of her hair taped inside a drawer. There were also cameras, multiple ones connected to a monitor. On the screen were live feeds of Maya's house from different angles, from inside her home. Someone had been watching her every move. One officer felt his stomach turn. This isn't obsession. This is a system. Back in the interrogation room, Detective Monroe placed the evidence photos in front of Ethan. For the first time, his eyes changed. Not panic, not fear. Relief. "So you found it," he said quietly. "Where is Maya?" Sarah asked. Ethan leaned back in his chair. "She's safe." Sarah slammed her hand on the table. "She's been missing for days. Her son thinks she's dead. This isn't a game." Ethan's voice remained steady. "I never meant to hurt her." The words felt rehearsed. He told his story slowly, carefully. He said Maya was lonely. He said she needed someone. He said he loved her and wanted to protect her. "When she tried to leave, I panicked. She didn't understand what we had." Sarah stared at him. "What you had was in your head." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's what they all say." That one sentence triggered something. "All of them?" Sarah repeated. Ethan realized his mistake too late. The investigation expanded beyond Riverview Lane. Ethan's real name wasn't even Ethan Cole. His birth name was Evan Keller. He had legally changed it twice. He had lived in 5 different cities over the past 10 years. In 3 of those cities, women had disappeared. Same pattern. Single, living alone, last seen near Evan or Ethan. Each case had gone cold due to lack of evidence. Until now. Detective Monroe reopened every file. One woman, Rachel Moore, had vanished in Oregon. Another, Tina Alvarez, disappeared in Nevada. Another, Jessica Park, was last seen in Arizona. In each case, Evan Keller had lived within 2 houses of them. The realization was terrifying. Riverview Lane wasn't his first hunting ground. It was just his latest. Back in custody, Ethan was confronted with his past. "This isn't about Maya anymore," Sarah said. "This is about how many women you've destroyed." Ethan looked genuinely surprised. "I never destroyed anyone," he said softly. "I gave them purpose." Sarah felt cold run through her veins. Without Maya's body, the prosecution's case was weak. They needed a confession or a location. So Sarah tried a different approach. She showed him Noah's photo. The boy crying in the hallway, the boy calling his mother's phone again and again. "You didn't just take Maya, you destroyed a kid's life," Sarah said. For the first time, Ethan hesitated. Something flickered across his face. Not guilt, possession. "He was getting in the way," Ethan said. "He made her less focused on me." Sarah's voice hardened. "Where is she?" Ethan leaned forward. "You really think I'd tell you?" he whispered. "She's the only thing I still control." Days passed. Public pressure grew. Media flooded the case. The town turned against itself, haunted by the fact that they had trusted a monster. Without Maya's body, the charges could be reduced. Ethan knew that, and he enjoyed it. Then one evening, during another interrogation, Ethan finally spoke. "You want her?" he said. "Check the place where everything ends." Sarah stared at him. "What does that mean?" Ethan smiled. "The place where people stop looking." The message was vague, but it was enough. Search teams re-examined areas that had already been cleared: forests, construction sites, drainage zones. Then a storm hit. Heavy rain caused flooding near an abandoned quarry outside town. The next morning, a worker noticed something floating near the edge, wrapped in plastic. Human. The call came in at 6:42 a.m. They had found her. And for the first time since Maya vanished, Ethan stopped smiling. The quarry was sealed off before sunrise. Floodlights cut through the mist, reflecting off muddy water that had risen overnight. Police cars formed a wide circle around the site, their red and blue lights flashing silently like a warning to the world. Officers stood still, grim-faced, as forensic teams carefully pulled the body from the water. Wrapped in thick plastic, weighted with stones, hidden where no one would think to search, it was Maya Reynolds. Detective Sarah Monroe stood a few feet away, arms crossed tightly, trying to prepare herself for what she already knew was true. Even before the official confirmation came in, she felt it in her chest, that familiar, heavy feeling of justice arriving too late. At the station, Noah was sitting in a small waiting room with a social worker when the news came. He didn't scream, he didn't cry. He just stared at the wall, as if the words had erased something inside him. "She's gone?" he asked, quietly. No one knew what to say. The town of Riverview Lane woke up to headlines. Perfect neighbor arrested in serial murder case. Trusted friend was a predator living in plain sight. News vans lined the street. Neighbors avoided eye contact. Some felt guilt, some felt anger. All felt fear. How could they not have seen it? Ethan Cole was transferred to a high-security holding cell. For the first time since his arrest, he looked different, not calm, not confident, empty. Detective Monroe entered the interrogation room one last time. "They found her," she said. Ethan's eyes lowered. "She didn't suffer," he replied after a pause. "I made sure of that." Sarah clenched her jaw. "You don't get to decide what mercy is." The full confession came slowly. Ethan admitted to killing Maya after she tried to run. He claimed it was an accident, that he lost control, but the evidence said otherwise. The planning, the cameras, the hidden room, the plastic, the weights. It wasn't an accident. It was a method. When confronted about the other women, Ethan didn't deny it. Rachel, Tina, Jessica. 3 names, 3 lives, 3 families still waiting for answers. "They all left me," Ethan said flatly. "Maya was just the first one who made me angry enough to make a mistake." The trial lasted 6 weeks. The courtroom was packed every day. Photos of Maya were shown, videos from Ethan's basement, audio recordings of Noah's 911 call, testimonies from families of the other victims. Ethan never showed emotion, not when the charges were read, not when the families cried, not when Noah took the stand. Noah's voice shook as he spoke. "He used to help me with homework. He used to tell me to lock the doors at night." The jury didn't need long. Guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment without parole. As Ethan was taken away, he turned his head slightly toward Noah and smiled. Not a big smile, just enough. Enough to make Noah flinch. Years later, Riverview Lane looked the same. Same houses, same fences, same quiet streets. but no one left their doors unlocked anymore. No one trusted the friendly neighbor so easily. Noah moved away with relatives. He grew older, but the memory never left him. Sometimes in crowded places, he still felt watched. Sometimes he still dreamed of a man standing in the hallway. Detective Monroe kept the case files in her office drawer. She taught new officers about it. Evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it looks helpful. Sometimes it looks kind. Sometimes it brings you coffee and fixes your fence. And in a prison cell far away, Ethan Cole spent his days staring at a blank wall. No cameras, no control, no victims, just silence. But in his mind, the story never ended. He still remembered every face, because the most dangerous killers don't hide in the dark. They live next door.